Welcome to Lack of Focus, an X-Wing miniatures game podcast, brought to you by Dice 8 Productions. Hello everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of Lack of Focus. This week, episode 10, These Aren't the Bombs You're Looking For, and we are brought to you, of course, by Galaxy Gaming Gear. I am your host, Ed Horn, and alongside me tonight, my partner in crime and gaming, one Mr. Chad Brown. Chad, how's it going, my friend?
Hey, everybody.
Good to have you back.
Yeah.
Joining us, the whole squad, we have Sean with us today. Sean, how's it going, my friend?
It's been interesting, guys. Been interesting.
I'm sure it has. And our producer extraordinaire, one Mr. Kris Sheriff. Kris, how's it going, my friend?
Good, thanks, Ed.
All right, so in this episode, we've got a few things we're going to cover. We're covering over the fourth and final pillar of X-Wing, which is going to be bombs, and I think we're going to roll devices into that as well, since it is kind of the new loop that they're in. We've seen what OP intends to do with at least the Wave 1 kits. We've got some ideas what's coming out of there, and the T-70 has been announced, at least some of the preview stuff, so we get to goggle over how good Poe is going to be forever. So all of that and a lot more is going to be coming up right after this.
All wings report in.
Red 10 standing by.
Red 7 standing by.
Red 3 standing by.
Red 6 standing by.
Red 9 standing by.
Red 2 standing by.
Red 11 standing by.
Red 5 standing by.
All right, we're back in the flight deck. We're going to cover over the events we've been flying in, lists we've been building, that kind of thing. I myself, unfortunately, was in Atlanta most of the week last week and spent the latter part of this week planning to play catch up. So I know this sounds like an old, reiterated story, but I did not get the chance to play much X-Wing. This week, of course, is Halloween, to kind of date the show a little. So I am going to try to squeeze some games in, hopefully this weekend, if not sometime during the week, but I have not been flying anything. Sean, I think you're in the same boat, correct?
Yeah, I've been mostly list building this last week. Work kind of got little outrageous Tuesday when League is. Couldn't make that. Most of what my focus is right now is putting lists together and then just learning how to fly them, so I'm doing that at home myself. But my current list, which will be my list for probably the next few months, is a 3 bounty hunter list, which I've been wanting to run, not only for the ease, but because the dial changes and stuff on the bounty hunter. I'm excited about this. Plus being a medium base, it'll teach me a medium base pretty quickly. But pretty much that's what I've been doing. Mostly is just I've been avoiding having to roll dice, which is, a great thing. But mostly
the one thing that never kills the list is rolling dice. It looks good until you actually roll dice.
Exactly. And for me, it's right now I just need to learn to fly better, get that part down, and then I'll be more ready to go. I'm hoping not next week because they're doing some funky list thing at League Night, so I won't play in that because I'm not interested in that. It'll be, I think what they're doing is the same thing they did at the System Open and there where you had to do Leia, Boba, and Vader or something like that. And you're forced into those. And
into those restrictions, yeah.
Yeah, that's not the game for me, but probably the week after I'll be back at League, or I'll be finally back at League and then playing the 3 bounty hunter list. Even though it's an extended league, I don't really care. I'll just play the bounty hunters and, do the best I can.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. So I have one list I know I had seen flaunted around the Facebook pages that was really interesting, mostly because it involves 2 of my favorite pilots. I'm not so sure about the third, but everyone's talking about it, so I at least want to give it a shot, which is
Can I guess?
Is it the Fel Whisper Redline list?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen and apparently it's been really good. I'm struggling to see how good how good Redline's going to be. That's the one that I don't see as part of that.
I played against something similar, but I'll not steal too much on it.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that's really good about it is you have a fat red line, but in comparison to other fat ships, it's like a normal ship. I think she still comes in cheaper than like Luke would.
Yeah, she's only 61 points at the build that I saw.
Yeah, so she's not a fat red line. She's got, I think, isn't a fat red line and has loads of options. You force the torpedoes because of the ability being after you take an action, you can take a target lock.
Mm-hmm.
So you can boost into range on that medium base, get a target lock. you can focus and get a target lock, fling a torpedo, you can fling a bomb forwards with a proton bomb and trajectory sim is like 9 or 10 points as a combo. And offers a lot of utility until you just kill Redline because it's 9 hit points behind 1 dice.
Correct. Well, I thought it was kind of apropos for the episode since we are talking about bombs and devices. The list that I saw obviously has Fel running Juke. I thought that was actually kind of a brilliant. I'm still trying to find.
Don't do it.
I'm still trying to find. I want Fel to work, but I don't know what upgrades go with it. I like Juke on it.
So what? Okay. So
tell me why. Tell me why it's not a good idea, or tell me why it's a dirty idea.
So Fel works because he's cheap now. So don't make him Don't make him not cheap. Don't put upgrades on him. What are you doing? It's nothing.
Run him naked.
Yeah.
Just run him naked.
Maybe
the list is only 192 points, so it's also got an initiative bid too. So like it's one of those other things that like if you took Juke off, it would actually be 12 points. It'd be only 288 or 188. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't take like Fel and Whisper and not want initiative.
Right.
No,
exactly.
So Juke's fine. If you've still got like an 8-point bid after Juke, that's okay. But like generally. Don't put mods on him because
no, I wasn't thinking that.
Yeah, you want to keep him as cheap as you can, and then Whisper's the workhorse of the list after Redline, and Fel is your typical flanker. He actually needs to. It's not your end game. I win by still being alive. Is your end game? I win by being Fel, and you can't actually catch me, and I can still shoot you.
Yeah,
but the more points you put into him, it kind of like falls off.
Yeah, and Whisper, just so we've already covered her, they're also including Juke. Juke, I think, is a standard on any of the Phantoms to start off with. She's coming with collision detector, but that's just the ability to be able to decloak over obstacles.
Why not? So good. So good.
Because why not? And then running Vader crew card, which gives her the force point sitting on that ship as well.
The cloak and choke. You can still choke people while you're cloaked.
That's the new title. I am going to title this list Cloak and Choke. That's what it's going to be. I hadn't thought about that. So yeah, and then just to finish it out, so Redline comes in at 61 points, but Redline's running trajectory cylinder like you said, and then some proton torpedoes and proton bombs to kind of cover the gambit of devices that he can carry. So that list looks kind of interesting mostly because I never flew Redline. Like I bought the ship. Mine actually kind of leans a little to the left because it's a manufacturer, because it looks kind of cool because it's kind of like flying at an angle.
It's not a that's a feature, Ed. It's Redline from the hood.
He's got the hydraulic kits that work exactly. So it's a list I want to give a shot and see how it goes. So whenever I do make it to the game store, it's going to be a combination of that or my Fel Vader Palpatine 2.0 kind of list, and see how the old Imperial Aces flies in current 2.0. I think both are going to be good, especially with Fel. We already know how good Fel is, and I know how good Vader is. So the question is, how long can I keep Palpatine alive? So those are the two lists I intend to take to the game store whenever I make it. So we'll give it a shot and see how those go. Chad, I will pass it on to you because I actually have no idea what you have been doing lately.
Aside from you don't go to the game store or anything, man.
Yeah, it's not that I don't want to. Seasons have changed. I'm sure Kris has seen snow already. We've seen a touch of snow, and everybody gets sick. If my voice is off today, I'm still getting over something. Because, I went and got a flu shot, and the first thing that happened after I got a flu shot is I got sick, even though that's not supposed to happen.
Well, it's 100% what's supposed to happen. They infect you with a virus that's awfully like flu, which has all of the same symptoms as the flu, but shouldn't be as bad as getting the actual flu.
So what they told me was that it's all the antibodies. It's not the actual flu virus itself.
They lied.
Exactly. That's what I said. So why the hell did I do this? But I bet
it was like hydrogen in it and potassium. Oh, you and your vaccines. Oh.
I know, right? Well, I don't know. It's that point, and this is, I'm getting to older, And it's one of those
yeah.
things, I've never done it before, and maybe it's time I start taking care of myself a little bit. Like, it's a little preventative. Maybe I feel under the weather for a couple of days, but so yeah. So I went and got the flu shot, and then I'm getting sick right after. So there's, of course, all the kids were sick, so I don't know that it wasn't me just catching what they had because my body was fighting off something else. But long story short, I feel much better today.
Yeah. Anyhow, so my flight deck.
Your flight deck.
Yeah.
Because it's about you.
Yeah, just for the next minute or two. I had played a few games I was going to talk about in the last show, but since then I really haven't played because I missed the last show because I was in the hospital.
How's the foot?
Better.
They put you on antibiotics and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah, they did all that fun stuff, and but yeah, basically I played some games at the game store. Played one of the newer people up there, although I don't know that we can really call them newer people anymore. I mean, they've been coming now for several months, and but I played Katie. She's one of them, and we got through our game, and it was like, okay, it was pretty easy because she just wanted to see what second edition was like, and Christian had bought multiple conversion kits. So, like, all the pilot cards.
He bought, like, all of the conversion kits. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, all the, like, cards, he didn't need. And, like, he doesn't really play Rebels. He gave them the dials and, like, the pilot cards and, like, Rebel-only upgrades and stuff,
Doesn't play it, yet still bought it. Just so we're on the same page.
Okay, so here's the best part. Not only does he not play Rebels, but I think he bought, like, 2 conversion kits for Rebels.
To be a nerd. We love it. We just spend money we don't need to.
I was looking for that guy in Calgary because I wanted to get... I don't really want to get loads of Rebel stuff, but I wanted to be able to fly a Falcon. And so I was like, if someone's bought 2, they won't need all of the Rebel-only cards, like the crew, so I could get a set of them. And then I wanted like a dash of Han and like a couple of other bits and pieces. And like no one bought 2 Rebel kits in Calgary. I'm like, fine. So I'm picking my Rebel conversion kit up today. I'm caving and actually paying money for it today.
I need to get another Rebel conversion kit for 2 freaking B-Wings.
Yeah.
Because Gabe runs to run 4B1Z. He wants to see how it looks because he actually looked at the list and said, I can actually go with higher pilot skills, initiatives on the B-Wings and still play the list that I really, really liked. And B-Wings are really good. So I want to do that. And I'm like, okay. And I go back to the conversion kit and I'm like, I only have 2 B-Wings that came in the conversion kit. And they were wave 3. So we've got until April to wait until the real ones come out. So if there is anybody out there that has Rebel parts that they're willing to piece off, Kris and I are clearly in the market to pick up a couple of pieces and some cards.
I'll be done after this weekend. I might even have some B-Wings. We'll see.
Ooh! If you have B-Wings, let me know.
So I played her a game, and as we're setting up, I'm looking. I've got my 3 ships. She's got her 3 ships, and we're getting ready to go ahead and start. And as I'm looking at that, I'm like, okay, so how many points are you? And she's like, I don't know. Hang on, let me look. And then it's like, she gave me some like number that was like way low. And I'm like, you could fit like another ship or 2 in with how many points you just told me. She's like, I just want to get a little bit of a feel for a second, see what kind of things have changed and all that. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, things changed like points.
Yeah. So needless to say, that game only took about 5 to 7 rounds.
Yeah, I can imagine playing a handicap.
Yeah, but I played Christian too, and at this point I can't remember what he was playing, but he ended up winning that game. So,
are you still playing the same list, or have you altered at all?
So I had made up some new lists to take to the store, but then I kind of ended up not being able to go to the store because I had that little vacation, and yeah,
it's only a vacation if you enjoy it.
No, I had to watch the Steeler game from the hospital.
Oh, that stinks.
So, no, it was not enjoyable.
No, not cool. Well, with any luck, for me, I know Halloween falls on a Wednesday, so yes. I should, and I'm going to put that in air quotes, should be able to make it to the game store on Tuesday to be able to fly my Fel Vader Palpatine, and we'll see how that goes.
You want me to kick your teeth in?
Take the Punisher. Do Redline.
Do it. All right, I'll give it a shot. I'll take that list. Let's see how it goes.
I'll kick
All right,
its teeth in.
Are you done, Chad? I want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to overstep. The last time I did it, I completely ran over your flight deck. I didn't want to make sure that happened again. All right, so someone who's actually been playing a lot more games than the rest of us, and who's even losing sleep thinking about X-Wing. Kris, I know you've played a lot more than we have. What have you been up to?
Playing X-Wing, it's been weird. I think before we recorded, I think I said I've played more X-Wing since we recorded last than I did last year in its entirety, probably. I've been kind of dragged into a Battle of Alberta tournament that we're doing. It's going to be like a team-based event. The rules are a bit funky, so I'll probably cover that after we've done it. Maybe do an in-focus thing on how we did a team event. But Edmonton's running it, so trying to get the Calgary folk to travel the 3 hours up there. And
you said it was the two gaming areas are kind of going head-to-head kind of thing, right?
Yeah. It's the two bigger locations in Alberta where you have like communities, but Edmonton takes their X-Wing a lot more seriously than Calgary does. So it'll be interesting how much of a curb stomping they give some of the guys, probably myself included.
If you want to do it, like you can do something like you don't obviously have to take the epic side of it. You can do something similar to how the Outrider Cup did it. I loved how we did it, where if you took 6 people make a team. You run 2 representations from each list, and you can't share unique. So if someone takes a Darth Vader crew, they can't take a Darth Vader.
So they have that rule in place where it's named pilots and named crew are the limitation across the team. So and you have to have a representation as even spread as you can. So I think we're at 12 players. Going up there, so we've got 4 rebels, 4 Imperials, 4 scum, and I've got my Boba Fett, Fenro, and Zealous recruit list that I've been working on.
You've had some pluses and minuses with you said.
Bubba was one of the hot commodities, but I won out with the statement of, well, if you want Bubba, put your list on the table and we'll play for him.
That's awesome.
Then we actually had a team meeting of do we want to go and have fun, or are we just going to try hard at what do we want to do? So we decided we wanted to try hard. So then I had to drop the bombshell of okay, if we want to try hard, I am putting a veto on anyone who wants to fly Supernatural Vader because you're not good enough.
Ooh.
So I was like, okay. They wanted
Shots fired.
Well, they wanted me to be like the team captain. I was like, I'm not being the team captain because I said I would rather not because I do all of the judging. So I wanted to keep some level of impartiality when the Edmonton guys come down for the next regionals or whatever. So I'll play, but I didn't want to be the captain. But I said, I'll happily be the bad guy, though. So it's like, look, Supernatural Vader's really good if you're good at the game. If you're not, and you just put him in front of shit, he dies. So take Vader crew, because that's really, really good, and is less punishing. So
less punishing if you make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You make a mistake with Vader, he dies quickly.
Yeah. So that went fine. I'm not going to... I think I'm at about 8 games since the last show. I played in a kit tournament, and I think I was on the top table at the end, but then lost the game because I was bad.
Come on, you have to share that story. It was so funny.
Oh, it's so much fun. So this one was playing against 2 tubes, and a Z and a Y-wing. And I decided I wanted, because I'm still testing for this event, I wanted to see how bad it was if I boost into range 3 for the opening engagement rather than sitting outside of it. And I plinked like one shield off the Z because I wanted to. I'll get everyone into range 3 and try and kill the Z. And I did one shield to the Z and lost 2 shields off Bubba. I said, okay, that was a bad trade. So not getting shot is better. Lesson learned. Who knew? It was fine. And then at the end, I think the Y-Wing had 3 health left, and I had the choice of still trying to run with Bubba or trying to kill it. And I was like, okay, well, we'll try and we'll go for the win. I turned in, and he got the unblockable kill shot on Bubba, and I think it was like 2 crits. I needed one of the crits to be a direct, and it wasn't. I was 1 hit short from getting the actual killing blow in before he killed me. So it was fine. It was fun.
Lessons learned. We're all still learning. We still haven't any major events, and for me, the part that I'm missing to second edition is the fact that we don't have like the X-Wing meta list anymore. We don't have the Scum and Villainy site, list builder, list juggler.
They announced List Fortress is coming back. List Fortress is coming, which is like List Juggler 2.0. So
nice.
You will have that. The games I've lost, I can pinpoint 2 games where I just made really bad mistakes. So I think probably the story you were talking about was my boosting. So I'd planned. I had 2 options going into the turn. I can do a 4 straight and this boost and a banked boost, or a 5 straight and a straight boost, or whatever. And I did them. I did one of them and was sure I'd dialed in for the other one for Fen. So I'd moved my Initiative 1 ship, did the boost. I was like, oh no, that's the wrong boost. Well, practice game, so I'm not going to do any takes and backsies or whatever.
I already laid it down on the table.
Yeah. Got to Initiative 6, flipped over Fen's dial, and just pushed him straight into the back of the ship. It was only in the cleanup step where I actually looked at what was on Fen's dial, and I wasn't an idiot. I had done all of the right stuff, apart from being an idiot.
So you actually dialed in a 4, not a 5, so you really didn't. So technically you cheated.
Yeah.
But you cheated against yourself.
I cheated myself into an action denial loss, where I bumped myself into range 2 in arc instead of barrel rolling out of range, out of arc. Yeah. Lots of stupid mistakes like that. So just getting the kinks out. I've found if I actually try and fly Fen as an arc dodging ace, is really good. If I try and fly him as a zealot recruit, he's still really good. So I've been leaning on a little bit too hard on the raw stats of the ships, I think. So actually starting to play the game proper with the list. So I think one of the things when we were chatting about it earlier was the losses. I can pinpoint mistakes that I've made, but when I win, it always feels very much like it's on autopilot. It's like the matchups and stuff. So I'm still pretty convinced by the strength of the list in a 2.0 format. In Extended, when you get a lot of the extra tricks and stuff, it does fall off. Like we spoke about it, but I wasn't really sure how it would do. But it definitely falls off in power level for Extended. It's still good, but I find it struggled against some of the Rebel stuff, ironically. Anything with a good amount of shields where it's going to survive multiple rounds, it can't stand and trade punches. It needs to get in, kill something, get back around and do it again. Anything where you can blow through people, it does really well. But I have one closing thing I was going to try and talk about. I don't want to run the flight deck too long.
Oh, but, no, by all means.
I'm thinking about, for an extended version of the list, dropping the Zealot Recruit into a quad jumper, just a PS1 quad jumper. So you've still got a PS1 blocker, throwing on Deadman Switch, and Tobias Beckett, so I can have some rock placement shenanigans after we've deployed forces. It makes it 32 points, so that frees up a good chunk of points, like 12 points, for actual toys on Bubba. Fenn's still naked, but Bubba then gets 000 and keeps Slave 1 title and gets... I'm looking at cloaking device at the minute on Bubba because that shit just seems funny. So my stupid plan of... I'm not going to do it every time. Obviously, it's going to be game dependent. But you deploy Bubba facing across the table, and then you one-hard him towards a ship. Then you cloak. Then in the next round, you decloak. So you go 2 forwards plus his base length. Then 4 forwards plus his base length. Then boost plus his base length. And you're like, oh, I'm at range 1 now. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Surprise! Bubba's here. And then you get to do your 000, which can it gives you the potential of a calculate. No one's going to take the calculate if you boost Bubba into range 1 of someone and they take. There's no bad choice. Okay, can I have a calculate token, please? No. Okay, have a stress then.
Exactly.
And it's 3 points. It's such a good card, Jeremy. So good. I think that's Chumby's card from being System Open champion. Pretty sure.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, it's so good. The stupid thing is, I was looking at it, and I'm like, okay, I'll see if anyone's picked it up yet, because it can obviously drop into an Imperial list if it's got Vader. So I was going through all of the lists that people are talking about. You can't duplicate crew, and no one's taken it. I'm like, okay, seems
maybe I'll take that.
Seems like a mistake, but I'll have that as well. So, the tournament is next Saturday. So we're recording Saturday morning. So I've got a week. So I'll probably be able to get a game in tonight, and then maybe some more games on Tuesday. So I'm going to test it out then, and we'll see how it goes. My only worry is that it definitely slows the list down. So I feel like if I do it wrong, I'll have the potential to overextend Bubba on his own because of the cloak, and my tractor beaming shenanigans won't work. So there's some
because he'll be out there hanging out there by himself.
Yeah, there's some anti-synergy there, but I feel like it's only just because I've got it, I don't have to use it. So I can use the cloak to go sideways and stuff as well, which is just stupid. Decloaking a medium base sideways seems like cheating. So I'm going to actually read my rule book as well. That's the other thing. I've still not read any of the rules for the game.
Probably might be a good idea.
So I was like, that's the other thing I didn't talk about. So there was one game I played last night where I was like, it's all going well. It's all going well. And then I was dead. I'm like, oh. And Fenro, I had to get him back in the game, and I was pretty sure he was going to be flying over a proxy mine, because if my opponent didn't drop it, that could have just been being bad. So he dropped the proxy mine. I'm like, it's okay, Fen's on full health. And then I rolled double crit. I'm like, oh, okay, what happens now? Do I take the crits? And I was like, well, I think so. So I'm like, yeah, you take crits. So I dealt them out, and then one of them was a direct. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, Fen's dead then.
Aww.
But it's like, I'll be behind them. There's no counterplay to me having Fen behind them at range 1. He's going to win me the get dead.
Yep.
The other ones I've done, Bubba died to Fen in one of the games died to, it was Fuel Leak Direct.
Aww.
So takes 2 crits and is dead. Okay, fun times. And then I did 7 damage to Nora from 1 shot in a game. That was 1 crit was she put the hull breach on herself because of a proton bomb. So I'm gonna eat the bomb, but it's okay. So critted himself, and it was a hull breach. Then I got one hit through, which did 7 damage. It wasn't. I didn't even roll a crit and did 7 damage to Nora. I was like, yeah. So my takeaway from this is that 2.0 can feel really bad, but afterwards they're always fun stories.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And we're still kind of in the infancy yet. We still haven't seen our first point adjustment yet. I am kind of curious as to when that's going to happen. I don't think they've given an announcement. I know they said they were going to do it X amount of times per year. I thought it was 3 times a year.
January.
But we still haven't. What's that?
January is the first rebalancing.
January is the first one? Okay, so we'll have to wait until then to see how things go. And I'm really curious to see how that first point adjustment goes.
So, run Redline Trajectory Simulator now.
And while you can. All right, so that is going to do it for the flight deck. We're going to roll into the news right after this.
Almost there.
All right, we're back, and in the news, we've got 2 articles we want to cover over real quick. Let's get the big one out of the way first. The T-70 was announced over the last week, and of course, we get our first look at what the Resistance is going to look like whenever their wave comes out. The first large elephant in the room that we need to address is going to be Poe. Poe, of course, coming in at Initiative 6 as well. He should. Obviously, they're coming in with a focus, target lock, and a boost. 3 attack, 2 evade, 4 hull, 3 shields. He's obviously got a charge token, which we'll get to in a second. His ability, after you perform an action, you may spend 1 charge token to perform a white action, treating it as red. It's basically push the limit. And this charge token isn't a one-time thing, it recharges. So for all intents and purposes, they have softly put push the limit back into the game.
So before we go too hard onto Poe, do you want to look at the chassis compared to a T65 and chat about that a little bit first?
It's probably not a bad comparison, actually, because to get to the chassis, I think there's a piece to that missing, which is the title, which we should probably go over as well, which is the integrated S-foils design. This one here, it does something exactly similar to how the other ones did for the T65s, whereas if they're open, it doesn't change the stats on it. If they're closed, it gives them a barrel roll instead of a boost. However, there's a caveat to that, and that is if you are inside, if you have a ship inside the bullseye arc, you don't subtract the die. So all of a sudden, we've got Poe with all the magical stuff that BB-8's going to give. He's got push the limit effectively. He's a super positioning ship, and if he gets you in a bullseye, he has no negative effects from closing the S-foils. So this one's starting to feel a little 1.0 here to me, but it's only 1 pilot.
When you look at it compared to the T65, then, the chassis itself has a boost instead of a barrel roll, and it has an extra shield. I think you were looking at 41 points, isn't it, for a standard X-Wing? So
something like that. Yeah, that sounds about right.
If you value barrel roll and boost the same, that's a wash. You give them a shield upgrade, you get to 47 points, and then you've got to see, rather than having the torpedo slot, this one looks like it's got a weapon hard point, which lets you have cannon, missile, or torpedo. So depending on if you actually value that as being worth points or not, is kind of irrelevant. I don't know.
I would agree.
So I'd be guessing at 47 points a ship.
Base. So this is before we start getting into the name pilots.
Yeah. Then when you look at the S-foils, obviously that one adds the opposite one as well. You still get, instead of boost or focus red boost, you get barrel roll, focus red barrel roll. But like I said, there is a way to not -1 off your shot, so that's a buff as well. But it's still going to be a 0, because it says this in the article, I believe, that this configuration is free. I'm sure, I can't remember where it was somewhere. Yeah, this free configuration upgrades add barrel roll actions. Yep. Yeah. I think that's pretty good.
I think it's really good.
Yeah. For Poe, I'd be guessing at like the 70 Luke Skywalker kind of point range.
Oh yeah, no, I would think so. He's so good. He's definitely the more classic first edition, what you would think of pilot ace, stacking tokens, kind of doing triple actions kind of pilot. which currently in second edition we do not have access to. So it's going to be the interesting part of this for me is that they're restricting it by faction. So one of the things with Push the Limit was that, of course, it came in the second edition A-Wing card, and every ship that had an EPT slot had access to it. Whereas in this instance, it's one pilot for one faction, so not everybody can do it. It's going to be what makes Resistance distinct from the Rebellion, for example, or other factions, in the fact that they have access to Poe, who can do this.
Yeah.
It also, in my opinion, means that I think that Poe is going to be relevant for a really long time.
Which it should be. He is the new poster boy of X-Wings, basically. Like, I feel like there's going to be a generation of people who grow up now not even really realizing that Luke Skywalker was in an X-Wing and only looking at what Poe does in his, so...
How about Wedge?
Who?
Right? Oh.
So there was a conversation, I don't want to drag out this segment too long, but I was in a conversation with one of my friends the other week, and we're talking about Wedge, and it was like, yeah, I've seen it said that Wedge is just a coward. If you only take the canonical like movie stuff that happens, Wedge's outstanding contribution is letting a guy who's been flying an X-Wing for 5 minutes tell him, who is second in command of the squadron, that he can't help him anymore and that he should just bug out. So he bugs out, and then Biggs dies. It's like, well, look, Wedge, you could have died. That could have been a contribution. You might have saved Biggs' wife, but Biggs wasn't a coward. So,
although Wedge does have the distinction for being in all three movies, and he was the one to deliver the killing shot on the Death Star 2.
Yeah.
But had Wedge died and Biggs lived, it could have been Biggs who'd been in all three movies.
Okay, and you're right. That's a fair argument, and we all love the great mustachio himself, Biggs. But yeah, no, I agree. It's an interesting canonical kind of argument if you really want to get into it. But you're right. Every time you ever see Wedge, he's bailing out or he's taking the killing shot and taking credit for himself. Woo.
So, anyway, back on topic. Back in focus.
Back in focus. All right, we've gone off topic. Now we're back on. BB-8.
So before you get to BB-8, how awesome would it be if you could have supernatural reflexes on a ship and give them an elite pilot talent?
Oh,
that
God.
would be really good, wouldn't it?
That would be really good.
What does BB-8 do?
So functionally, BB-8 is almost a functional reprint into second edition. Before you execute a blue maneuver, you may spend one energy token to perform a barrel roll or a boost action. That seems an awful lot like supernatural reflexes to me.
Yeah, it has the caveat of your maneuver having to be blue.
And it also has a limitation.
Yeah, that is the other...
they did create a limitation in it. Good thing.
Yeah, they didn't allow BB-8 to continue to recharge and allow this to happen infinitum. So, I mean, there's only an X number of times, too, that you can do it, but it's still... the two times that you do it, you're outmaneuvering everyone and blowing them off the board. If that's two ships off the board, that's the game.
Yeah, I think, though, one thing, and you guys kind of alluded to this, but with the limiting amount of ships that this faction will have, you kind of have to have a super pilot. You have to have something like this that will exist. Now, the problem be down the road is as they start adding resistant ships in, will Poe be minimized or reduced as you get more in it? Because Poe, with other good ships, will be a very, very difficult ship to deal with in the game.
Yeah, it's a very similar situation to whenever the Scum entered the game, and that right out of the gate, running two IGs was super, super good, and winning regionals almost off the get-go whenever they came out, or whenever you had the Jumpmaster come out, and it was so super good. And it's that same scenario because this faction was so far behind, they had to bump them up in power level to just be able to compete. No, I agree, but of course we live in a second edition world now where if that is the scenario and Poe does get too good, they just adjust the points.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they do it quick enough.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree.
To me, that's that they do to adjust, nerf, or whatever you want to call it. It has to be done quick enough. It can't wait until another season. They really need to hit it even if it's midway through, let's say the old regional season, they really need to do that. They need to be more proactive rather than, end of season reactive, waiting, from the old store championships to the regionals or regionals to the nationals or worlds. I think that'll be the biggest thing with this and a ship like this. Once you start putting, and I know that there are other ships out, but once you start adding ships into this mix, Poe is going to be pretty good right off the bat, and you will have to find a way to limit something in that faction, or I'm not going to say Poe will take over the world, because I don't think any X-wing of any caliber is that great. Still good, but not great. We'll see. There's a lot of tricks that you can do with Poe right now, which is interesting, but they need to react quickly to it.
Oh, but wait, there's more, because there's the Black One title, which gives him access to the slam action.
Before you move on, I just wanted to,
go ahead.
For addressing Sean's point there, I don't think Poe will take over. And I don't think the Resistance faction is suddenly going to make T-65s null and void. What I do think it will affect is all of those people running like the Trench Run and 3 X-Wing lists. You should be able to fit Poe and 2 wingmates in there. So that's where I feel like it will start to have an effect on the meta, is that if you're going to run Triple X, are you going to run Luke with his defensive abilities, force power, and all of that stuff, like Luke Wedge and something? Or are you going to run Poe and put the eggs in that basket? I think that's where the choice is going to lie.
Yeah, which will affect the T-65. If that proves to be better, then you're going to run it. Or at least the people that buy into that faction will run it over the T-65. So that's kind of my worry, is I want the game to seem like it still has a balanced effect, rather than where, the back of the book becomes a prevalent thing for many, many, many ships and cards.
Well, and I think it's super important to point out the fact that it is in a separate faction, so it's not an either-or scenario. So one of the problems whenever Poe first came out, he was rolled into the Rebel faction. So then the T-70s were introduced. They effectively, with the exception of Biggs for the longest time, killed the T-65, because who would run a T-65 when you have access to the T-70? Well, now, if you're only a Rebel player, and we'll have those guys. We will have those guys like, nope, I'm a Rebel player. This is the only faction I intend to play. They don't really have access to it. So it gives that little bit of a dichotomy, like, well, if you want to go over to the Resistance, you're trading all the good stuff that comes out of the Rebel faction to get into the Resistance faction.
Well, just to that point, I originally had the plan of just being a Rebel player, and I've bought all 3 kits, so I'm sure that I'll be buying into that faction too, which that's where the choicing comes in. It's Rebels. Are they going to be the weaker faction? Are they going to be a strong faction? And that's a key to me, is just making sure that T-65 stay viable once this faction comes out, when the T-70 comes out. I know, to me, they're T-65s are better than they were in 1.0 at the end. But we'll see. It's just conjecture at this point, because we don't know we do kind of know everything that's coming out to what they've shown us. But it's the other ships in the faction that I'm worried about. To where Poe can run with something strong, and we're starting to see the Rebel faction fall behind just because of power.
Yeah, I could see that as a valid argument. So, what I do now that I can bump into it now, the Black One title, which will add an additional trick to Poe and other T-65 technically, or T-70 X-Wing chassis, is it allows them to have the slam action on top of everything else, and it does come with an energy token. And after you perform a slam action, you can lose that energy. They may take either an ion token or the disarm token. So this is that gamble that you can make, that I'm going to gamble that if I ionize myself in this position and still be able to shoot. So it's Poe's going to be pretty crazy with all of his multiple actions to be able to get into position, slam in there, target lock focus, and gamble that he's going to take that ship off the board. Now, yeah, he's going to be ionized after, but Being ionized isn't as bad as it used to be from first edition. He'll still get a focus action after that.
So one slight correction, Ed.
Mm-hmm.
So Black 1 reads, after you perform a swam action, lose 1 charge. It's not a choice. So it is a one-use swam.
Oh, so you can. Okay,
yeah,
so
the choice comes in to if you want the ion token to remove a disarm token.
It's interesting. I read that and I read it differently. Yeah. Okay, you're right. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's comma, lose 1 charge, full stop. Then you may gain 1 ion token to remove 1 disarm token.
Cool.
So an interesting thing about this one to me is that as long as, and I don't know because I haven't read every single card that's out yet, but having an astromech or something that allows you to gain power back would make this really, I'm not going to say OP, but would make it really difficult to play against at times. Because if you can do this multiple times with a Poe or a higher pilot skill ship, this could be tough to bring a ship down because they can just fly past you.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of would be Chopper, but he's Rebel only. I'm pretty sure Chopper can spend charges from something else to regen shields and spend shields to regen charges on other things. I think that's Chopper's ability.
Right, but if as long as we don't see like an R4 and R5 astromech or something, just because the generic R2 astromech allows you to regen 2 shields every game, which, if you have a tough Poe with a black one and blah, 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 everything else, and you're able to regen at least 2 shields on Poe, then that becomes an even more difficult situation because you have a nimble ship that can do quite a bit of damage and have a lot of combat tricks to go with it.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be an issue because for it to work in the way you're talking, it would have to be an elite pilot talent or a talent, I think they're just called now. Because if you've got the regenning droid, that negates it being a droid title, so it doesn't have crew. So I feel like in this specific instance, it should be in hand. But Wave 4s, when they break X-Wing, that is known.
That's absolutely true. So a couple of things we can touch on. They did show a few named pilots. I don't want to go over all of them, but kind of give a splash of them. Carcoon, which is a new character we've not seen before. That the ability on this ship is that on the boost you can use the hard turns instead of the banks.
It's all Blue Ace, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what they're doing. They're taking those. They're removing something that has always annoyed me from the game, which was the Blue Ace, the Omega leader, and actually giving names to those pilots.
I can't believe you've been such a chauvinist, Ed.
Oh, is it a she?
Carcoon, woman of action. Give her due. She is a woman of action. How dare you take away her agency?
I am usually really good with picking out female pilots. I missed the subtitle. That is my fault. We did get a generic BB astromech, which basically does the same thing the BB-8 does, except it's only a barrel roll. Same thing. Spend a charge to be able to do a boost action after you reveal a blue maneuver. We see Joff Sea Strider. This one feels like I feel like I've seen this ability somewhere else before too. What's that?
Red Ace.
Red Ace, yeah, exactly. So they're adding all those in. After you lose a shield, you can gain an evade token, which the T-70 natively doesn't have access to. And then Lieutenant Bistan, after a ship at range 102 is dealt a damage card, you may acquire a target lock on that ship. That feels familiar too.
I can't remember this one, but that's an initiative 2, so that's pretty well set up for a target lock focused torpedo.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. We got M9G8, almost a functional reprint of that card as well. While your ship you are locking performs an attack, you may choose one attack die. If you do, reroll the attacker rerolls the die. So I've heard there's an interesting way that they've worded locks, because it used to be you can only lock your opponent's ships, but technically if you wanted to, you could lock your own team's ship. You can
lock an asteroid now.
Well, that's true. You can lock an asteroid too, which I'm waiting to see where the functionality for that comes in. But if you really wanted to, it's like a soft target lock to be able to add on to it. So you could lock one of your own ships to allow them to reroll one die. So that'll be interesting. What was the other one? Oh, and then we got 3 generic pilots, the Black Squadron Ace, the Red Squadron Expert, which I assume are both going to have the talent slots, and then the Blue Squadron Rookie. Oh, and then we got one more named one. I totally missed him. Kris Tubes. Is this part of the Tubes family? Is he like
He is a loving father.
Ah, he is a loving father, so he must be. After you fully execute a blue maneuver, you may choose a friendly ship at range 0 to 1. If you do, that ship removes 1 stress token. So the interesting question that I had is, how do you fully execute a maneuver at 0? Because at 0 means you bump them. So the only scenario that I can come up with is if they...
No, it's in the rules now. Read the rules. I've not even read and I know this. It says in the rules that there may be a corner case where you fully execute your maneuver and they're physically touching, as in at range 0. So remember how in first edition touching didn't mean touching. Touching meant that you'd overlapped and been pushed back along your maneuver to be only touching. That was the definition of touching in 1.0 X-Wing. In 2.0, touching now just means touching. So if you're at range 0, you didn't have to overlap them. So for an example, if I bump you in one turn and we are directly behind each other, so perfectly lined up, you do a 1 forwards, I do a 1 forwards, we will still physically be touching because we've both travelled the same distance.
Okay, I remember this scenario now. And we didn't overlap. Okay, I do remember that scenario. So that's a weird, like you said, weird corner case, but it does. I've seen it happen. I've actually had it happen myself in several games. So, okay, I can see that one. So effective. All right, I can see that one. And that's it. That's all the stuff that we got. I think we got to look at the dial, too. If I take a quick gander down here, where's the spread? Professional podcasting right here. I thought I saw the dial.
You don't know.
It's not in the article. It must have been in that the release that they sent to the distributors that I had seen the dial, but we'll see it. I'm sure we'll get back to it and then we'll come in. So there's one other thing I want to cover in the news. This section ran a little bit longer than I thought. We now have Wave 1 kits. We know the contents of those kits and we know what's going to be in them. There's some interesting stuff in here. They are re-upping on the full... Here's a ship with all the upgrades, although as Kris was kind enough to point out off air to me that they are kind of tuned towards the quick play cards. So these are the ones that actually come with multiple upgrades on them. So they've got Thane Krell on there, for example, who's got the S-foil, stealth device, and outmaneuver already rolled in some fantastic artwork. It's really amazing. Iden Verso's got proton torpedoes and Lone Wolf, and then the Scum get the Skull Squadron pilot. And this is the argument that I made. I felt so bad for the Scum players because you've got, and admittedly, these are for the quick build kits. These are mostly supposed to be kind of fun, but you get a named pilot for the Rebels, you get a named pilot for the Imperials, and then you get a generic for the Scum. So I feel like they're getting a little bit of the shaft on this one, but I think we've seen another quick build card out for them. So, and the full arts of these are fantastic.
Don't feel bad for Scum. They're Scum after all.
The other interesting part that came out of this were the challenge missions that were coming out of this. Now, again, this is not competitive. This is more designed to be a lot more fun, but I love the look and feel of these missions. So the challenge missions include losing 3 shields or have an enemy ship at range 0, play 2 games with 2 different factions, or win a game using only 1 unique pilot, and play a game using the escalation rules or play 3 games. So there's some interesting little points, and there's a points value on the top of this, so I assume that that's going to come into play there. And of course you get the metal energy token. Has anyone seen these arcade token style tokens? How are they feeling about those?
So they're in the old kits as well, like the old metal shield tokens and stuff. It'll be the same as those, I imagine.
Yeah, I would imagine so too.
If you get a game night, you'll see them.
I know.
If you went to more, you would have won some.
Yeah, if I actually went out to games. Yeah. I don't know. For me, I'm just not digging on the metal tokens. And maybe it's just me being old, nostalgic, and get off my lawn. But there was something about seeing the old acrylics that was really kind of cool. So I don't know if it's a cost thing or if it's just FFG going, okay, we've done acrylic tokens to death. Let's try something different. And they went with the metal.
You can't be a cost finger because you have to assume that metal costs more than acrylic.
Right. So I don't know. It's interesting. I still have my backpack floating right over here that had the old medals that you used to get, like the pinned medals for winning Star Championship kits. And I wouldn't know. I thought those were amazing, and I still have all of mine. We also got full arts for the Black Squadron Ace and R2-D2, which also look really cool. We also have the generic double-sided plastic card for the Bounty Hunter / Gray Squadron Pilot. Also very cool. We do have an acrylic bomb token. which is the seismic charge that's coming in. So, and then there's a special alt art card for the Gray Squadron and Bounty Hunter for the champion of those. And you get posters. Let's not forget the posters, which comes with Iden Verso's artwork and Thane's artwork and the range 1, 2, and 3 rulers, respectively.
For the wave leader.
Cool. Yeah, super cool stuff that's coming out of this kit. But it looks like to me that all of this is going to be. This is the non. I know we're not necessarily. It's not officially the non-competitive track, but this is the non-competitive track. This is the one where you're playing the quick build cards, correct? Yeah, the quick build parties. So yeah, it'll be cool. I'm looking forward to it. I have to find a shop that's actually running them.
So it breaks down into multiple events, and I believe the score thing you were talking about is what you add all of those up to see who the wave leader was, and that's what decides it. So it's performing in multiple events, not just turning up, winning a tournament, and getting all the goodies. But ultimately, it'll be up to the stores how we run them. So that'll be interesting.
It is going to be interesting. So, I always give F3 full credit for the support they give out to the community. Everyone loves their alt arts, everyone loves their little tokens, and everyone loves their templates. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I am noticing an overwhelming amount of alt art stuff coming out at the early onsets of second edition. Back in the early days, it used to only be like you got the store kits, you got the regionals, you got nationals and worlds, and that was kind of it as far as the alt art availabilities and tokens availabilities. And they've really opened the floodgates for your options for picking up cool stuff from FFG. So get out to your local game store and play some games.
Yeah, you should do that.
I should do that. I should take my own advice. You're absolutely right. Well, unless there's anything else, I think that's going to cover the news, and we're going to get into the main topic today, which is going to be the fourth pillar of X-Wing, which is supposed to be bombs, but we're going to kind of roll in devices into that as well to kind of cover everything else in the game. So we'll get on to that right after this.
I don't know. Fly casual.
Yes, I'm going to... I'm recording. All right, pull that up. All right, we're back, and in the main topic tonight, we're going to talk about the fourth and final pillar of X-Wing, and that is going to be bombs and devices. So, in reference to the older versions of the game, and Sean was one of my favorite folks for pointing out the fact that in the early days of X-Wing, bombs, devices, missiles, things like that, they just weren't very prevalent in the game because they weren't very efficient. You had to spend a target lock to even be able to fire it, which meant that you didn't even have the ability to alter the dice unless you banked another focus or something along the lines like that. But for all intents and purposes, we're going to kind of take that conversation to the side and talk mostly about playing around them, playing with them, and kind of being prepared for them. So you have all kinds of interesting upgrades that have been added to the game since then that are now currently in second edition that allow you to toss bombs and missiles all over the place. And you need to kind of be able to account for them. So sometimes if you've got a ship you're behind and they've got bombs, that's probably the worst location to be. But in the vice versa of that is if you have bombs, perfect bomb placement and where to be able to keep those. There's ones that are perpetual that kind of stay on the board until they've been hit, and you have the ones that detonate immediately. Knowing when and where to hit those, it can win you a game. It really can, because some of those get right through shields and just take ships off the board. That's how aces were coming down in first edition. So I'm going to toss it out to the panel and hear thoughts on precise bomb placement and missile placements. And like Kris, I think I might toss it in your direction first. What do you feel about bombs, missiles, and devices in second edition?
So, for bombs specifically, I feel like had proton bombs cost 1.25 point in 1.0, we might have seen them a lot. Given that it's 5 points in second edition, which gets you 2 charges, that's so cheap. 5 points for two crit, minimum of 2 crits, because you drop it when the way I'm seeing them used is you drop them when like there's no escape. You've cast that net wide, you've got them, they're not getting out of it. It's even like repositioning aces, unless you're advanced sensors repositioning, there are situations where you're going to be at range 1 of that template. And it's normally built around multiple ships doing it. So this is the one that's going to drop the bomb this turn, and this other one is going to block positional play to make you not be able to escape it. And I found multiple ways that people are doing it. Like rebels tend to have the net behind them and use the multiple arcs and turrets and stuff to try and keep you in there. Like ion Y-wings that also drop bombs are pretty fun not to play against, though.
Well, for me, what it does as an ace player, one of the ideal positions to be as an ace player is behind a ship, because they can't shoot you, which is where you want to be. But this kind of fills that gap. It's almost a hard counter to an ace who's trying to get behind you and take shots at you. You're like, oh, you want to hang out in the back? That's fine.
The correct place to be if you're flying Sutnia Fell against ioning Y-wings with bombs now is in the opposite corner of the board doing hard ones until they're dead, and then you take him out to play.
Right, because there's like almost no place to hide, really.
So there's that style of trying to a little bit of control in your list and drawing them onto your bombs. And then you've got the Imperial style, which is very much you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because I'm going to launch this bomb at you. And if you close with me, I'm just going to drop it behind me. And surprise, it's not 1.25 points a bomb now because I've got a white reload. So that's why Punishers are good. With reload being a thing on, I want to say, most of the bomb carriers, well, especially the ones we're seeing, like Y-Wings have a red reload, K-Wings have got a white, Punishers have got a white, Bombers have got a red as well, I believe. All of these ships can effectively have infinite bombs, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a points increase, because I don't think we're going to want to change what's printed on the card and like reduce the charges down to 1. So I don't know, 5 points just seems really cheap for protons, 3 points for seismics. Understanding the threat range of a seismic is pretty cool. If you're playing, so picture the scene. I'll try and paint a picture with words now. So I'm going to play red line
with Kris.
and I'm going to run it with protons and seismics. So now I've made that list. I've got just the one Punisher. I'm not going to go OTT. I'm not going to play massively into it. But red line's got proton torpedoes, seismics, and proton bombs and trajectory simulator. And we'll call it there. Now I get to rock choices. Oh, I think I'll take the 3 biggest things that I can. Then I'll deploy them at range 2.5 of your board edge. And then I'll see where you put your ships. And then at initiative 5, I'll put red line so that I can fling a seismic to be within range 1 of my giant rocks. Then if you're within range 1 of said giant rock on your opening, which if you wanted to fly towards me, unlucky you are, then all of those ships can take some damage. Okay, so is that dealt with some of your shields yet? Okay, cool. Good job, I've got proton bombs then.
That is a huge point to add into, though, is the amount of board control that bombs bring into the game. If there are certain corners that you want to paint people into, you can just guide them there simply by making it a bad idea to be there.
It's not even so from the protons. It's from the what we're used to playing against that template, and it's like, okay, if I do this maneuver, a barrel roll should get me out. A banked boost should get me out. Fell's pretty much fine because you can, interceptors A-wings are okay because they can double reposition, but anything like Fen now is what the Fangs can only single reposition. I can only boost or barrel roll. So if I make a mistake on that dial placement, I'm taking a crit. And I don't have shields.
It's within the obstacle itself. It's within the rock itself. So you're making a much wider circle to really make a danger zone for those bombs.
You know, the rock placements doesn't change. So you know if you're going to be putting that template within range 1 of an obstacle, and then the threat area of where they can move around that, and it does lead to. Defensive play becomes a necessity. You need to bait them into I'm going to fly near this rock, and then you heard one and boost away again. It's like, it was all a feint. Did you use a charge? The problem comes then, this happens in the system phase. If you're a lower initiative than a Punisher, they just reload. Okay, you're disengaging, no threat then. I don't need a focus on defense, I'll reload. And that's a pretty nasty combo. Unless you can actually punch through and get into range 1, you will struggle in that engagement.
And if you get within range 1 in the rear, they'll just drop out of the back.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think, so that's the two main kinds of bombs I'm seeing. Well, the only bombs actually at the moment. The devices would be... I've not seen a coronet on the table yet. I've played against prox mines, and they are a lot better. 1 auto damage plus 2 dice is a much smoother bell curve. So, yeah.
No, that's right.
Yeah,
that's a good analogy.
Yeah, it's a lot better. Controls a lot of space as well. It's still a pretty big template. The other thing that is interesting is until it's fully clarified, I believe it is still possible at the moment to drop a seismic, drop a proton and have your rigged cargo chutes and stuff. So you can add debris to a table to blow up in the next turn. You can't do it in the same turn because the bomb is removed. No, yeah, you can. The bomb's only removed at the end of the activation phase. So you can drop the bomb, do a slow maneuver, drop your debris cloud as an action, and then that you can pick the debris cloud to be the seismic's obstacle to blow up.
It's dirty.
So you can drop.
I carry my own obstacles with me.
Yeah, so you can drop it, and then you So if you've got them pinned in between 2 big rocks, you drop it they're going to be dropping the seismic, so I need to go quickly to get away from the rocks that are behind me. And you go, surprise, I actually dropped a debris cloud, so you're running through the debris cloud, potentially taking stress and a damage. Then the cloud is going to blow up, and you're going to take another damage there. So it's impossible for you to not take that damage yourself, because obviously it's an action to drop the debris cloud. But depending on the trades, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right, absolutely.
Well, yeah, those are the main devices. You can't drop prox mine and a proton or a seismic or a coronet, but debris is in somewhat weird in-between place. That they tried to get it clarified of, does it actually count as a device, which the limiting word in the rules is device, I believe. You can only drop 1 device per turn. And it came back that it's an illicit. The card's an illicit, and the actual debris cloud is an obstacle, because that's what it needs to be to count for all of the rules for that. So it's in a bit of a weird place at the moment, so we'll see.
Does anyone have anything else on bombs before I did want to kind of talk about some of the missiles and some of the torpedoes as well.
My only big thing about the bombs are the cost or the pricing for bombs. If you're going to give them 2 bombs, the 5-point bomb, proton bomb, is almost ridiculous,
It is, Sean. It is ridiculous.
Seismics, okay, that's fine because they're representative of, there's another trigger effect that has to be there, and they are avoidable if you're a good enough player. Of course, I'm not, because I got caught up with a seismic charge and 3 ships got hit with it. But that was me not really understanding the new rule on those yet.
Yeah.
But now that I've seen it once, it's
fool me once type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I think it's the charges and then the cost and then the ability on a lot of ships to regen those. Now, of course, on the mines and things like that, you can't regen them, but I'll be honest with you, that's scary. If you can pay 5 points and have unlimited proton, that's a scary thing in this game.
Protons are the one that worry me, Sean.
Me too.
Seismics are gated by the obstacles on the table. And whilst the position of a seismic isn't known until it's dropped, you know where all of the asteroids are when you place them. So if you're playing against seismics, you have to be cognizant of that. So when your opponent has brought 3 big rocks, you need to corner one of them in their corner in the space you don't want the engagement to be. And you start counterplaying in turn 0. If you throw the rocks down and let them place the 3 big rocks that they've inevitably brought, you're doing it wrong. You need to start thinking about the game earlier. But with protons, there's no outplay until you're on the table, and then it's all known information. There's times, it's not even that they do crits. It is the nature of them being effectively 1.25 points in old money. I feel like that's too cheap.
Well, there's that. There's a whole other...
Sorry, Ed, as Trajectory Simulator is only 3 points as well.
That exactly where I was going to go. There's a couple other contributing factors I was going to mention into that. In first edition, we didn't see a lot of ships that had reload. Now we do. We had some... Because they began to recognize in first edition that bombs were not right. Nobody was taking them. Competitive, they weren't very good. And they started kind of working on it. We started getting things like munitions fail-safes, things like that to be able to kind of reload those things. But when they came up with the reload action that is now native to second edition, now you have the ability to, like you say, have unlimited bombs. And the very first time you do that, that drops at 1.25 points down to what, like 0.6 points, 0.7 points per bomb. And that starts to get pretty ridiculous when you combine it with things like Trajectory Simulator, where you can just fling them out onto the board and say, here, have fun with these guys. It's really kind of crazy. So bomb-toting ships are usually priority number 1 to get off the board because they can wreak havoc on a list.
Yeah, and I don't want it to say I'm not complaining about them in the sense of first edition Advanced Swam dropping like that. That was stupid. Genius.
Trajectory Simulator.
Like old 1.0 NIM doing some genius bomb drops and stuff was like those were 1.0 ridiculous. Protons aren't 1.0 ridiculous.
No.
But I feel like had they come out at this price, they would have been good in Wave 2 and all the way through the game. But they didn't. They came out at, it was 5 points in first edition, wasn't it, for a Proton? Or was it more?
Correct.
I can't remember.
No.
I think it was 5 points for a Proton bomb in first edition, and that was for 1 that you didn't have reload. And you're now getting 2 for half the price. So
with a reload.
Yeah.
Preferably on a ship that has reload.
So it's definitely something that is a valid option and a valid playstyle now. I advise people to try it. They are good. Bombing is like really good fun. Emon Azamine is really... I played in 1.0 because it was fun. Redline doing her trajectory. But I'm not saying I don't want it to go away. I just think it needs a little tweak. And come January, it wouldn't surprise me. Like I'd expect if Trajectory Simulator goes up 1 point and Protons go up 1 point, Seismics stay where they are. I feel like that's a little bit healthier. I've seen arguments that maybe Trajectory goes up to 5 and Protons stay where they are. Because people don't think they're too bad on the Y-Wings and stuff. But, I don't know. I think if that combination costs 10 points, however you get there, is healthier, shall we say.
Might just need a little tweak. Do you want to touch into some of the missiles and torpedoes at all on top of all of this? Because they have definitely been corrected. For as little as we saw bombs in the first parts of first edition, we almost virtually saw no missiles whatsoever in torpedoes during... I mean, proton torpedoes were part of the core set whenever you bought them because it was very iconic. Luke Skywalker going down the trench run firing off a torpedo, but nobody ever used them because they were so expensive, and the mechanics behind using them were so difficult to work with because you had to use a token just to fire it, and then you're just rolling unaided dice, where it was almost just better to just roll dice.
I'll speak to that right away.
I was hoping so, because you have a huge rant on this one.
Well, it's not a rant. It's interesting because you go from one extreme to the other in the game, and if you're a new player or a player who is used to the old game, not fully used to the new 2.0 version, that being able to spend the target lock is pretty big. Actually, it changes the way that munitions actually exist in the game. Proton torpedoes are brutal when you can spend the target lock, and if they're rolling semi well, if they start out with the 2 hits and then they roll into 2 other hits and focus, it's a game changer. It'll take ships down pretty fast, or at least do a lot of damage pretty fast. And I like the change, actually. I'm going to be honest with you, after thinking about it for a while. I like the change because it makes them valid again. They're not, proton torpedoes are just torpedoes in general, or missiles in general are not invalid pieces to the game, or you don't have to do other things like the extra munitions or the guidance chips or something like that to try to make them a better, more acceptable way of playing them. It's all built in now. Being able to spend the target lock, you no longer ever have to go anywhere else to do this, as long as they can spend it to re-roll the dice. Really good. I just, it's kind of a shock to your system if you're not used to the new way that all of this works. But very viable. Torpedoes, the funny thing to me is that the protons are 9 for 2, and the other one, the bombs, are 5 for 2. When the bombs, in effect, I think they're more effective. Torpedoes, because you're rolling against them, don't have that full effect like the bomb does. So the pricing is the thing that kind of makes me wonder, because rolling 4 dice, let's say you get 1 hit, 1 crit through. Well, with shields available, that mitigates or minimizes, and with that bomb at 5, being able to just avoid everything and you just get the crit. I'm thinking that maybe you price that bomb up to the same price as a proton, in my personal opinion, just because of the effect that you have with it.
So I think what I wanted to touch on, specifically we're looking at obviously missiles and torpedoes now. The reason why I wanted to group them with the devices and bombs for the pillar that we're talking about is obviously that they offer something different in that they don't have the range modifiers. That's the little missile icon on the card. So you get the advantage of taking the range 3 shot, which is primarily where the value is in a lot of these guys. That's where you're paying the points for. Not only is it a 4 dice attack with a soft mod from hit to crit for a proton, but it has the ability to not give them a range 3 bonus. And I feel like in first edition, we were used to missiles being where the strength was, and it definitely feels like protons are where the value is. One thing I was thinking about recently was X-Wings, the cheapest X-Wing being 41 points, so you can't run 5 of them. Feels like a bit of a downer.
Well, considering you came from a first edition that you could.
Well, you couldn't, and then you could for like 2 days, and then you couldn't again.
Wow, that's true. Fair argument.
But I would like to see X-Wings drop down to 40 points, and maybe protons go up to 10 points. And I feel like that does the same thing. If you can still run 4 with protons, but you now have the option to run 5 without. And I feel like that little... Again, it just takes the edge off. You start being able to not fit everything. So your red line that we were talking about earlier is now 3 points more expensive if you've got trajectory sim, and that's really with very minuscule tweaks. If trajectory goes up 1, arguments could be made. Trajectory goes up 2, protons go up 1, protons go up another 1 as well, and it starts affecting the rest of your list building, so you now can't afford a naked fell and a bid. So
Yeah, fair argument.
you know, it doesn't cut the legs off the list, and that's like, as a slight tangent, it's like the same thing with like the bubble list I've been playing. I've got 3 points left in the list, and it wouldn't surprise me come January to have no points left. It will still fit, but I don't get a cheeky 3-point bid on Fenrir anymore. And that kind of thing is where I feel like, and that's what really excites me about 2.0 is the ability for just these little tweaks to change it. But I say that was a slight tangent. But
That's
protons definitely feel like where the strength of the current ordnance is. I've seen homing missiles used to good effect as well.
That was my next question, was if you found any missiles that you felt were kind of floating to the top of the power level.
Homing are just stupidly funny. Do you want me to roll these 4 dice? I just want to take a hit now. You've got 0 agility? Okay, just take the damage, it's fine. And it's surprising how bad people are at math.
Chad, what was the missile that you put on Vader? Was it the cluster missile that you put on Vader?
Yeah.
See, that one was really effective in the games that we played.
The double tap Vader.
The double tap ability was really effective.
Yeah.
And that was one of the ones that really kind of stood out to me. Like, homing is good. I'm not going to deny it, but I still think that those cluster missiles were really, to be able to just sit there and take an ace pilot like that and just go, and you get a missile, and you get a missile, and everybody gets a missile.
Yeah, and you get the soft mod from Vader, still being Vader.
Exactly.
Yeah. The one I like as well, and it might just be thinking about stuff that hurts Bubba, because that's what I've been playing a lot. But barrage rocket bombers with the saturation salvo combination, because barrage rockets come in relatively cheap. I'm gonna have to double check the points. Luckily, I've got the app in front of me. Okay, barrage is 6 points, and it gives you 5 charges. So it takes up 2 missile slots, but it's range
That's
2
still
to
insane, though.
2 to 3. For a 3 dice shot. So, it's nothing special. Attack focus, you don't even need to target lock. And if you can get them in the bullseye, you can spend one of your 5 charges to re-roll a die for each charge you spend. But then when you get to saturation salvo on top of that, you can force the re-rolls. So you've got to be, and one of the people were chatting, it's like, saturation salvo, you have to pick 2 dice from to re-roll. It's like, right, okay, so what was the downside here? I don't understand. It's like, well, what if they roll an evade and a blank? And it's like, okay, so I'm playing Bubba, I rolled an evade and a blank. Are you going to saturation salvo? It's like, well, no, because you might roll into double evade. It's like, well, I'm re-rolling the blank anyway because I'm Bubba. If you make me re-roll both of them, it's actually better. Again, people being bad at math. And that's even taking out the fact you could be running into a Fenrir or anyone with 3 agility. Where, all right, well, re-roll those 2 because I'm pretty sure you've got some paint on them somewhere. It's good.
When you start getting into the 3 agility ships, you start looking at proton rockets.
So protons. I don't understand the question.
Did they move that to range 1 too, didn't they?
Yeah, but it's now just a 5 dice attack, so your agility is irrelevant.
Okay, yeah. So I missed it. It used to be based on the
Yes, sorry. So protons, I always bulk at. So proton torpedoes, 9 points for a 4 dice attack, range 2 to 3, needs a target lock, and has 2 charges. Proton rockets is 7 points for a 5 dice attack, but it's bullseye only, and you only get 1 charge. Proton rockets are going down, man. There's no way that's viable at 7 points.
No way. All right, so they need to drop to even be worth it.
Yeah. 5 or 6 points. I probably still wouldn't take them at 6 points for proton. Unless there's a ship that, an A-wing that I'm just not seeing for rockets. 7 points is expensive for. I just don't like them. Concussions feel like a bit of a trap because I'm taking them to be the alpha in my list, so you don't have any damage cards for me to expose yet, especially if you have to shoot them at not the target that you've been shooting for them to be worth it. So concussions feel like a bit of a trap, especially because it's only a 3 dice missile. You do get 3 charges for 6 points, so there's value there. But again, if you can, barrage rockets are better. Just take barrage. If you have that second missile slot. Clusters, I think we spoke about straight away. There was the silly Z swarm I was talking about, and Chad running them on Vader. I think cluster there's a lot of value in. Again, it's only a 3 dice attack, but you've got 4 charges on these, so anything that's 2 attack base is where you go with these. They are only range 1 to 2, so you can't reach out into someone at range 3. Ion missiles, I am not a fan of at all.
Nope, me neither. I think we can agree on that one.
A lot of the ion ordnance, I've been really turned off by the fact that you have to do a damage and then more damage. So the initial damage doesn't actually apply the ion. It's subsequent damage. So I'm rolling 3, it's a 3 dice missile, and you've got defense dice to roll. So chances are I'm probably only doing 1 damage to you, so you're not taking any ion from my ion missile. So why did I take it?
Right, exactly. I've been having the same thought.
And then homing at 3 points for 2 charges. It's just funny. No one is ever going to let you roll 4 dice at them. After you declare the defender may choose to suffer 1 damage. If it does, skip the attack and defense dice steps of this attack and treat it as hitting. I'll spend a charge. Do you want a damage? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it.
So homing is a standout missile for me because it's just funny. And humour plays a big part in that. Barrage rockets, if you can, I think are pretty strong. Then corner cases for the others. But when you get to top... Sorry, go on, Sean.
I'll be honest, anything in the game where I don't have to roll dice and still get a damage, I am extremely happy.
I was wondering if it was going to be you or Chad that spoke up to that.
Yeah, and it's 3 charges as well. You know, it's not like...
It's 3 damage. It's 3 damage.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I'll take 3 damage for that point cost any day. I mean, truthfully.
What?
It's just... that's simple. That's simple math in my game.
Right.
And you can spam them onto Zeds.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's now not 3 damage you're automatically taking. It's now getting into, like, 12 damage you're automatically taking.
Right. Yeah, so, I'll take ships down without having to ever roll a die. I have no problem with that.
So there is a case to be made for it.
So into torpedoes, we have ion torps, 6 points again. At least this one's a 4 dice attack and has 2 charges for only 6 points. So ions... kind of maybe if you can't find the 3 extra points for protons and you're wanting to run an alpha list, fine. The good thing about them, I suppose, is if you're looking to alpha something and it's got more than 5 hit points, opening up with the ion top isn't a bad move because then next turn it becomes like you don't even play the game. Like I 1 forward because I'm playing ships that can carry torpedoes, so they normally have a 1 forward. You have to because I ioned you. So now you're eating the second salvo from all of my guys as well. And potentially these are going to be focused target lock shots because I didn't have to spend my target lock to fire them last turn. So there's a case for ions in that regard. And you are actually more likely because it is a 4 dice shot. Proton torpedoes at 9 points. 4 dice again. Range 2 to 3. 2 charges. Converting a hit to a crit. That's where the money is in this. Advanced protons suffer from the same thing as the prockets do. In that you only have 1 charge. So I'm paying 6 points for 1 charge now. Rather than 4.5 for a charge. And all it gains me is I lose a range band's worth of danger area. Well, in fact, you actually lose more because having range 3 is obviously bigger than range 1 because that's how cones work. Sorry, like trigonometry is a thing. So you're actually
real. Math is real.
Yeah, you're sacrificing a large threat area to gain 1 dice, but ultimately you had 4 dice probably from your primary anyway, so you're literally only gaining the 1 dice now, and you only get to do it once.
At 1 range band.
Yeah. If it still had the flip blanks or something, if it had an extra mod, I'd be all in. I'd be playing Guri, like I used to play Guri with advanced protons in 1st edition, because that was funny. If you, my action is target lock, would you like to come within range 1 of me? Because if you do, you're eating this advanced proton top. You're taking 5 hits guaranteed. Because it used to convert 3 blanks into focuses, and Guri's ability at range 1 gives her a focus token. So it was like cheating. So if it had something like that, at 1, I don't even think it would be 2.0 broken. Maybe not 3 blanks to focuses, maybe like 2 blanks. Or if it was the old proton torpedo ability of change 1 focus to a crit rather than 1 hit to a crit for these. Just give me something. Give me a reason to pick this over proton torpedoes, because at the moment there isn't one. And I don't know that for me to consider taking this card, you're talking about a massive cutting point. It's got to get down to 2 or 3 points before I'd consider advanced proton. So there we go. That's the ordnance.
That covers them. All right. So I think we've. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on it. That felt like me talking about ordnance for a long time.
And it's okay, because I think you covered it very succinctly. So unless anyone has anything else to add in, I think that's going to cover it for this one. I know we've got some listener questions that went up on Facebook, so we've got those to look forward in the closing. So unless anyone has anything else they'd like to add.
No, he pretty much said everything.
Yeah, no, he did a fine job. He's outstanding.
Sorry.
All right. That's okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to close out the show, because I know that somebody has a Halloween party they got to go to. So we'll move on to that right after this.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
All right, so that is going to do it for episode 10 of Lack of Focus. We do, of course, want to address some of the listener questions that came in prior to. Chad, you're back, so your official duty is to ask the questions. I have not cheated. I've not looked, so I have no idea what's coming.
Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and start off. First one I've got shown on my screen is Christopher Bengtson, I'm sorry if I butchered that. He wants to know, why is Zach Matthews still the insert ridiculous title for winning question competition here 2000 master?
Because I'm bad at... it's actually a really good show, so I don't want to spoil it too much. You should definitely listen to Millennium Condor and the Intergalactic War Master 2000 X-Wing something or other. The X-Wing Intergalactic War Master 2000 quiz.
Something, dark side.
Yeah, it's really good fun. You should listen to it. Slight spoilers there, but I think I pushed Zach the hardest he has been, and I'm not convinced that Bruno got the scoring correct. I think I should have called a judge. But if you've not listened to it, it was really good fun recording it. Bruno and Peter, really, really good guys, really funny, and it was good fun to work with. A lot more professional than we were. They used the atomic clock on the internet to sync everyone's audio up, and I had to record it in Audacity myself and then send him the file, and he edits it all together from everyone's individual recordings. And I was like, I've put work into editing, Bruno, but I'm not putting this much work in.
Holy crap. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like, peek behind the curtain, I am currently recording my own files for Kris, but that is just to make it a lot easier for him to single out individual channels, but that's nuts.
Yep. Moving on, Scott asked a serious question this week.
Ooh.
So Scott Weasel asked, what other games do you play, and in what ways, if any, do you think those have helped you in tactics and strategy for X-Wing? So I'm going to go ahead and take this one because I already know my answer to this. I've played 40K. I'm a Chaos Space Marine player who loves my Khorne Berserkers. And
has a Khorne tattoo. That's how serious he is about that game.
I have a mark of Khorne, yes, tattooed upon my body. And as many people have noted in my play style, Berserkers are get in there and punch you in the face kind of guys. And that's the way I play a lot of my games. I do that Alpha Strike. I'll keep my guys together so that they give a real good hard punch, right off the bat. Definitely it's translated over from one game to the other for me.
Okay, so my answer to that question is I tend to migrate from game to game to game, where I still keep my old stuff. So obviously I still have all. Yeah, I still have all of my Dungeons and Dragons stuff sitting here. That's kind of where I got my start.
Yeah, you need to play that.
We do. You're absolutely right. I know I've mentioned it before, but I've really gotten really hard back into Magic the Gathering, which was my second love whenever I was in high school. Mostly I'm playing on my YouTube channel for MTG Arena. The skills there don't really translate. So really what we're talking about are tabletop games. The only other tabletop games that I have experience with, obviously, is Warhammer 40K, which I still blame Chad for getting me into. It's totally your fault. You came to my house one day with the Demon Prince, and I was like, "That's so cool! I want to play that game." So I still have all my models; they're still here. I agree with Chad in the fact that there's a lot of those strategies of how some basic military strategies of alpha strikes versus glass cannons, when to play defensively, when to play aggressively, what units are best for that kind of thing. X-Wing's kind of its own thing, though, because in a lot of those games you have a lot of free movement, and this is probably one of the first games where pre-plotting your movement was a huge tactical part of the game. It's a huge part of the game of X-Wing. So I don't know that I've played another game that kind of comes close. Armada, but this is kind of whenever I get into my FFG part of it. Chad and I also play Blood Bowl from occasions when we get around to it. Blood Bowl is an amazing game, but that's that's just pure fun and chaos, and watching Chad's Sauruses annihilate my rats.
So your answer, Ed, should have been that just like all the other games you have sitting there, you don't really play X-Wing much anymore. So there's your comparison.
I have a beautiful shelf of games that are all fantastic. This is what happens when you get old and have kids. You stop having time to be able to do all this stuff. So I basically try to limit myself down to one game and kind of focus on, which is why all of my 40K stuff is kind of sitting out in shelves right now, because when X-Wing came along, that 40K got really unbalanced, and at the time, Games Workshop was not. They didn't care. They didn't care if a unit was overcosted or undercosted. It didn't perform well. It did perform well. You'd have these lists that were stomping through tournaments, and if you didn't have the correct counter to it, you were just done. Whereas when I first got into X-Wing and FFG and how they handled the meta and how they handled their competitive tournaments, it was just a breath of fresh air to find a company that was.
So I think I decided we're not going to do a show under 2 hours.
No, he's just taking this way too long.
Oh, you're right. I apologize. All right, I'll leave it at that. Those are the other games that I play. Pass.
Okay, so I play lots and lots of games and have done for, unfortunately, the accurate term of decades now. Probably the main thing that it helps you with playing different games is just the not even like dice probabilities, but I remember we used to talk about it on Nova quite a lot when we still had Bob doing all of his really in-depth math. Is that it gave me quite a good sense of like my gut feel for what should happen if I roll these dice against those dice. And then the other thing that ties on from that is I have a pretty good understanding of what should happen won't, and that I need to plan for what happens when that doesn't happen. So having the backup plan in when you don't kill that one hit point ship, even though you rolled like 17 dice at it and that kind of stuff, what you're going to do next turn.
Yeah.
Don't make the mistake of if I don't kill this ship, I get blocked off the table and stuff like that, because that choice is never correct. If the alternative to dice screwing you is that you lose the game, it doesn't matter how low that probability is, the universe will find a way. Right, to paraphrase Ian Malcolm, the dice find a way.
John?
For me, it was I started out playing Warhammer Fantasy. I enjoyed the fantasy version over the sci-fi version of their game. Then they went through a huge change, which I didn't like, but the thing that directly relates to X-Wing is I played Wings of War, which was actually the precursor to X-Wing. And I played, I'm not going to say great deal of it, but I played a lot of it. And, you know, it wasn't competitive. It was just friends at a table, you know, running the missions and trying to blow up the balloons or the bombers or whatever. So I actually, when X-Wing came out, I was extremely excited to have X-Wing, a game like Wings of War, which is the basis of X-Wing. Except I can't remember who designed Wings of War, but then they brought Jay Little in for it, and you know, it was such a good game when it came out. But those are my two that kind of balanced into X-Wing in my tabletop wargaming, and since then it's been, you know, as much Legion and some other, you know, games that are similar. So that's my history.
With Wings of War, didn't they have decks and not dials where you would just put the card? Yeah, that was very. And
your movement was minuscule compared. You know, you might have the length of a card move. So, you know, think about the small cards in X-Wing. Maybe take those times like, you know, 0.5 and you get a little bit bigger card. And then the maneuver was on the card. So you had an arrow on your plane that you lined up with an arrow and then an endpoint on it. And that was your entire maneuver. And, you know, some could be as small as like a half an inch, I think, you know, to where, you know, that's even smaller than the range one movement template.
Yeah, so I think there's I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Judd.
I was going to move on. I mean,
no, I'm trying to keep it under 20. I could talk about Wings of War's adaptation to X-Wing, but I'll save that for another day.
That, and that's why I tried to move on.
Yep, I'll save that for another day.
All right. Here's a real quick one here. Ernie Harold asks, can someone settle the ignore obstacles question in a non-confusing manner? Kira should allow you to move, shoot, or whatever on or through a rock. Zachary Johnson did actually post up a reply to that one on the Facebook page. So if you go to our Facebook page and look for the listener questions, you can see he did post up. It looked like a bit of an article there that pretty much answers that one.
Yeah, it's the official reply from FFG on the rules question thread on the community forums. So we're not going to try and answer it better than FFG can themselves.
I mean, we could try, but we're not going to right now. All right. Next up, we have Hector Godinez, and he wants to know currently what are the most unpopular ships. He goes M3A, Kira Spider, E-Wing with a question mark. He's thinking those might be the answers.
He's wrong. TIE Aggressor.
Yeah, I almost agree with the TIE Aggressor.
How about from each? Let's expand that to each faction.
Okay. Aggressor, Rebel Zeds aren't blind, and I wouldn't. Yeah, M3A. I've not seen any of those. Kim McGill is pretty bad as well.
So they're kind of in a tie for that. But again, we're still really early, and we haven't touched our resets yet. So those unpopular ships, like. It's all anecdotal.
Yeah.
Like we have no stats, we have no regionals, we have no, you know, systems. Like we obviously had the Coruscant event, but that was kind of more of a fun one. So we don't really know what the meta looks like yet.
Like I said, TIE Aggressor. Unironically, I saw a guy playing 3 TIE Aggressors last night. I would never put one on the table in the current form, but someone likes them. So people, like, most unpopular ship is going to be like location and meta dependent on what people like.
I was going to say it'll change as they change points, you know, here and there to make those unpopular ships more popular, and I mean it'll change from time to time.
Once we have our first big tournament and you see what the top 16 lists are, that's what you're going to start seeing. You're going to see a lot of people trying to copy those lists and play those lists, and the ships that aren't in those lists will start falling off.
All right. Next up, here's Zachary Johnson asking his question. He says, where are all the defenders? I actually play Rexler, so one of them's right here.
I've been playing Bubba, or I'd be running Defenders. I think the Defender suffers from its points cost at the moment, and people love to run 2-ship lists, really, in spite of themselves. I feel like you can do some funky stuff. You could probably fit Rexler, Whisper, and maybe Soutnier, or there is some 3-ship ace lists you can do that include Defender, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them make a comeback as the meta settles.
Yeah, no, I happen to agree. I think the Defenders are just a little point heavied, but I do anticipate that being adjusted.
Sean, anything?
No, I don't have much to say about Defenders.
All right, we're going to move on to Peter Mantello. Hope I didn't butcher that. Do you think Scum are lacking in Force users? I'm going to say no, because if every faction has everything, then there's no real distinctive difference between them. So you would need a faction to not have a lot of Force users.
I agree with that.
I completely agree with that statement.
I think that's going to be like asking do you think the Old Republic has too many Force users? It's the flavor, having the Jedi Starfighter. I feel like they'll have a couple.
Yeah, I, that's going to be the exact same problem. I think the trick is that what they lack in Force users, they make up for in illicits in other areas of the game.
They make up for in Boba Fett's.
Right, exactly. They make up for in other areas. So I remember when Second Edition first came out. I'm going to try to make this quick. I remember when Second Edition first came out, we first started seeing the Force mechanic. One of my primary concerns was it was going to be overpowered. Now, having it seen on the table in the hands of certain specific pilots, it feels that way sometimes, but I don't think as a mechanic it's overpowered. So while, hey, welcome to being what it's like to be the Empire, where everybody else gets everything and you get nothing because everyone's just copying your stuff. It kind of works in that same vein. There are other things that Scum bring to the table that other factions do not, that help compensate for.
Empire have the most Force users
currently.
So they I think
they have access to a generic Force.
Yeah, that's what I feel like people are missing out on the tap at the moment. I think there's some missile combination there that we're not seeing yet.
Yeah.
All right, last question we have here is Kenny Fitcher, and he wants to know what is a good Rebel list. As a hardcore Empire player, I say none.
So a good one that I've seen and been playing against recently is the Nora in the Ark. Nora in the Y-Wing is just doesn't really contribute much of the not dying. But Nora in the Ark can actually be a bit of a tank whilst out putting damage. I think of it as like a Rebel meatball list. So start off with Nora. Start building it. One guy was running the droid that repairs face down damage cards as an action. And then R2-D2 crew to get a shield when you're unshielded.
Nice.
So with Nora's ability, blocking 1 damage when she's at range 1 all the time, like old-fashioned evade token effectively. Adding an evade is really, really strong, by the way. Then he, having a shield upgrade as well, I think it was, it's almost impossible. If you don't just go all in and kill her, she just doesn't die. Because the first time I played against it, I think I'd knocked her down to 2 hull twice. And it's like, okay, I'm going to break off now. I'm going to R2-D2, which gets me a shield back. And then I'm going to repair this damage card, so I'm not at half points anymore. And then next turn, I'm going to get another shield. I'm going to repair another damage card. So last turn's worth of shit. And once if it makes it to the end game, it's like the old, I think I ran 3PO and R2-D2 on Han together, and that felt really, really good. And that kind of works the same way. The other funny version of this that I really liked was the idea of throwing Lando crew onto Nora, because then you get to range 1 and go, okay, I'm going to Lando now. Because of a change to Lando, if you roll double blank, your opponent gets to pick. But if you've got Nora at range 1, neither one of those options is good, because she goes from, you're going to pick the evade because you don't want to help her offense and help her kill you. But that means the first time you shoot her, regardless of what she rolls, she's blocking 2 of your damage. And then the next shot, she still has her ability. So there is no bad option to rolling Lando on Nora if you can get her at range 1. And then I like it as like a meatball list, so some Y-Wings in the lots of hit points and just brute force people with it.
I'll make mine short and sweet. Dash, plus. Like, I know I'm a big fan of Dash with Luke, but I mean, and Dash with Bistain is probably better. Getting the attacks out of the alternate sides of the bow tie. Dash is just still really, really good. So find a good sidecar ship to kind of.
I don't think you're effective for flying a one-ship list, which I don't think can compete in the current meta.
Really good ship.
And I don't think if you're going to do it, you can't have Luke. You have to have Bistan for that extra shot.
Yeah, no, I agree with that because it kind of like you said, I think Bistan's the better choice simply because you need to be able to make up for the fact that you are flying a 2-ship list.
Logan's good at flying Dash.
Sean?
I missed a lot of it. My son called me, so.
No, that's okay.
What's a good rebel list?
I like 4 Y-wings just because of the simplicity of it.
Yeah. So on 4 Y-wings, you can do 4 Y-wings with veteran turret gunner and just take a dorsal turret, point it forwards, and just fly straight at people. Take my 8 shots. Do it. You will take my 8 shots and like it.
Right.
So yeah, that was interesting. And then was that your last question?
That's the last listener question, okay. Yeah.
So
we're ready to move on.
Well, Zach did send me the question, which I don't think he wanted to post on the page because I think he thought we would have just deleted it. But, you can post anything you want, Zach. You've been a guest.
Absolutely.
You've posted weird questions before, so.
Yeah. So this one's definitely a loaded question, which feels like he's just trying to bully Chad, which we will not stand for. I think that Chad accepts that Phantoms are good. It just does not want to run Whisper because it's not the same. But basically he's asking, what do you think of a run of successful TIE Phantoms that having in competitive play? Nearly all Imperial lists in the cut at Crossroads had them, and they made a significant showing at Spanish Nationals. Where am I? Yeah, nearly all, yeah. Are Phantoms actually good, or is this just an elaborate multinational conspiracy to make Chad look silly? And then he had a follow-up of, can Kris please say the phrase multinational conspiracy? So, yes, I can. There you go, Zach. So there you go, Chad. Are Phantoms doing okay, or is it a conspiracy against you?
It's a conspiracy. You caught me without my foil hat right now. Yeah.
It's NASA. NASA's doing it.
I would tape my camera over, but I've got to, keep it on for the YouTube and all that, so the government can see me right now, or all the governments can see me. The multinational conspiracy. So
it does give us some stats. So Whisper was in 8 lists in the cut at Crossroads and 5 in the cut at Spanish Nationals. So Whisper, it is the choke and the Cloak and Choke Whisper is doing really well, and Sloan Whisper is also a force to be reckoned with. If you can use her and some strikers or alphas and stuff, she does pretty well.
Yeah, but I mean, if you get a really good list and you've got the extra points and you put that low level, Z95 in, that just, you sit there and be like, well, look, the Z95 made these like really great, tops and all that. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's a ship you put in a really good solid list, and it's a conspiracy.
I'll bring Whisper and I'll see what I can do with her. You can evaluate from there.
Well, I'll blow her out of the sky quickly. Just to prove my point, I will purposely destroy that ship first.
Okay, so can we make a deal? If I actually fly okay that day, and Whisper is the reason why I win that game, will you accept that Phantoms are okay?
Sure, because I know you're not going to fly very well that day.
I said
I know you're probably not going to win either.
I said if.
Yeah.
I'm still on board with the multinational conspiracy myself. I think that's what it is. They've heard our voices and said, no, we're going to prove Chad wrong. All right, so that's going to do it for the episode 10. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Of course, Sean, always good to talk to you, my friend.
Yep, good to be here. Hopefully be here next time. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully. Chad, always good to talk to you, my friend.
Always good to be here. Want to say thanks to all the fans. Remember, you can send us questions on the Lack of Focus Facebook page. We do have email. It's the lack of focus podcast@gmail.com if you want to send us any questions or any information or whatever you want there.
Whatever you like.
Yep. If you want to help support us, or mainly, you know, that guy who does all the editing and all that kind of stuff.
All the hard work.
Yeah, he does all the hard work and everything.
We just show up.
Yeah, it's not like me where I literally just show up. I don't read notes. I don't read articles. I don't do any of that crap. But no, patreon.com/lack of focus would be a great way to help him. Even if you just want to, like, you know, say, you know, $1 here and there, that helps. Obviously, we've got our YouTube. If you're watching us there, you already know we've got YouTube. If not, you know, check us out on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, give us comments. Comment about how much Edge should, you know, play, you know, game again. And, you know, the multinational conspiracy, you can comment on that. That's also cool. Audio formats that you can listen to us to. If you're watching us on Facebook and you don't know that we're a podcast and you can listen to us, we're everywhere. You want SoundCloud, Podbean, Spotify, Google. I mean, we're just anywhere you can get a podcast. You can
in the iTunes store too as well.
Yeah. So, you know, download us, listen to us on your drive to work. It's all good.
Kris, always good to talk to you, my friend.
Yeah, it's good. 10 episodes in, double figures now. So.
We said this off camera. I'm really, we're getting a groove. It feels good. It's so good to be behind the microphone and talking with you guys again. It's so exciting.
Yeah, so I did want to say thank you to our Patreon. So it's Dice Hate Productions, Ed Horn, Sean Dorsey, Gustavo, Jerry, awesome. Michael, Peter, Ronnie, and Tommy. You guys are awesome. You make this thing like really keep going. And anyone who isn't a patron, make sure you do check out our Patreon page. We do have other content on there which we don't release anywhere else. Our In Focus episodes, we should probably try and do another one of those at some point.
I was thinking of that. Well, so we did have a question. Unfortunately, it fell through because we all kind of bailed out on Thursday, but someone had a specific question for Ron Brandon from the Nova area on B-Wings. Ron got really well, Ron's famous because he's awesome, but because he's an excellent X-Wing player. But one of the lists that he kind of brought to predominance in the competitive market was the 4B1Z list. And someone had asked a question, well, how about B-Wings in 2nd edition? He's super excited to talk about it, but he's renovating his house at the moment. And today was not a good day to get him. So I think that's a great idea. We should just do an In Focus with Ron talking about B-Wings. I can't wait.
And that's it from me.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining us. Next episode, I'm not sure if we decided the main topic for my next episode yet, but we will absolutely dig something up in the next 2 weeks.
Multinational conspiracy.
Multinational conspiracy. We'll have the tinfoil hats on. It'll be awesome. So thank you for joining us. Again, if you are watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, drop a comment down there. That does help out the show. And until next time, guys, fly casual. Thank you once again for joining the Lack of Focus X-Wing podcast. Check out Dice Hate Productions for all of the latest episodes, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you again next episode.